Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. Krevther liked to open the new term the same way every year. With the scar on his forearm, an old scale crack that had never grown back seamless, and the story of the cadet who'd put it there without ever landing a blow. 2 years ago, he told the row of new recruits, I watched something half my mass stay on its feet under twice my planet's gravity. I want you to understand what that means before I tell you how it happened. The chamber's hum was the part he remembered clearest. Not the number on the display, but that subsonic vibration climbing up through the deck plate and into his teeth. He'd sealed a dozen cadets inside that day, watched every one of them fold by the second gravity marker, and he'd been so certain the human would go first. She went down on one knee instead. Not folded, knelt, hands braced, breath sawing out of her in controlled bursts. And then, with the chamber humming at twice standard, she stood back up. That was the moment he should have started paying attention. He hadn't, not yet. Cassidy Rhodes had walked into his training hall on an ordinary Tuesday, barely 1.5 meters of her, skin the pale color of something that had never seen real sun, and Krevther had spent exactly 4 seconds deciding she'd wash out by Thursday. He'd read the file. Earth, gravity standard, atmosphere breathable, wildlife largely harmless by galactic measure. A soft world. He'd built his career on breaking cadets from hard worlds. His own homeworld had raised him on acid rain and bone-deep gravity, and he had no patience left over for a species that needed climate control to survive its own weather. Welcome to advanced combat, he'd told her, voice like gravel dragged over stone. I trust you understand what you've signed up for. Yes, sir. No shake in it. He'd filed that away and forgotten it within the hour. The obstacle course was where he'd expected the lesson to end. 2 kilometers of ice-slick walls, live current water crossings, cargo netting that swung in manufactured wind, built for bodies twice as durable as anything from a garden world. He ran it himself first, the way he always did, to remind cadets what the bar looked like. 12 minutes flat. Then he called her up, expecting a forgettable failure. She came off the line like something released from a trap, up the ice wall without pausing to think about it, over the netting reading its sway before it happened, across the live current beam like it was a curb. 16 minutes, first attempt. He told her it was adequate. Privately, the number sat wrong in his chest for the rest of the day. The sparring mat gave him his second warning. He paired her, against every instinct in him, with a Thoraxian named Thrak, 4 arms, each one thick as her whole leg. He told himself the pairing rotation had simply run out of better options. Thrak came in with a hammer strike meant to end things fast, and she wasn't where the fist landed. She never met his strength head-on. She watched his shoulders, his weight, the half-second before each blow arrived, and she spent the fight taking that half-second away from him. When he finally overcommitted, she dropped his leg out from under him and had an arm across his throat before the room finished reacting. Where did you learn that? Krevther asked, and he heard the edge of disbelief in his own voice. Fighting games, sir, since I was 6. She said it like it explained anything. He spent 2 days after that reading everything the Academy had on Earth, and none of it prepared him for the biochemistry lecture, where she listened to a rundown of a compound lethal at 5 parts per million, and asked, conversationally, how it compared to arsenic, a substance, it turned out, her species tolerated in trace amounts in ordinary drinking water. She followed it with a list of poisons humans ate on purpose. Chocolate, almonds. A stimulant she drank every morning that doubled as an insecticide. The lecture hall went silent around her the way a room goes silent around something it's just realized it doesn't understand. Your species, Krevther said slowly, built its survival not on resisting one hostile world, but on metabolizing everything 100 different ones could throw at you. Pretty much, sir. She looked genuinely surprised that this needed saying. By the 40-kilometer endurance trek, he'd stopped being surprised and started being unsettled. He set his usual killing pace, the one no cadet had ever matched past the 20-kilometer mark, and she stayed astride behind him for the whole distance, Not sprinting, not cracking, just running. The way he imagined her ancestors had run something down over open ground until it dropped from exhaustion rather than a wound. They crossed the line together. He beat her by 3 strides. No cadet had ever finished that close. "You're annoying," he told her, and meant it as something closer to respect than he was ready to admit. "Thank you, sir." None of that prepared him for the crucible. It was the Academy's final test for Deathworlders, 72 hours across a facility built to simulate the worst conditions the galaxy could offer, and in 50 years, only 18 teams had walked out the far side. He nominated himself and Cassidy for the run. Administrator Kellix nearly resigned on the spot. "She is human," Kellix said. "This is built for species that evolved in hellscapes." "Earth is a hellscape," Krevther answered, "just a diverse one. She qualifies." The volcanic zone took his footing out from under him on a slope of glass-sharp rock, and he was sliding toward a lava channel before he'd finished registering the mistake. Her rope caught him 2 meters short. In the Arctic zone that followed, his cold-blooded hearts began to slow, his coordination failing by degrees, and she stayed pressed against his side the whole way through the whiteout, feeding him warmth his own body had stopped generating. It was the cliff face, hour 68, that he would remember longest. 70 meters of technical rock, both of them running on fumes, and she went up first because her hands knew stone in a way his claws never would. Halfway up, she hit an overhang that stopped her cold, foot searching, fingers slipping, her whole body trembling with the effort of not falling. "I can't find the hold," she called down, and for the first time in 3 days there was real fear in it. "Then stop looking for one," Krevther called back. "You have never once relied on strength out here. Trust whatever it is you actually have." She went still. Then she committed to the move anyway, weight thrown forward on nothing but conviction, and a hand closed on a lip of rock he hadn't even seen. She hauled herself over the overhang and didn't look down again. They crossed the extraction point together at hour 71, filthy, bleeding, laughing in a way that had nothing sane left in it. 19th team in 50 years. Recovery took 3 days in adjoining beds, comparing injuries like currency. On the 4th, Kellix arrived with 2 certificates and the look of a man who had aged a decade in a week. "I underestimated your species," Krevther told her once the administrator had gone. "I judged you against my own world and found you soft. I was wrong in every particular." "You had incomplete information, sir. We don't look like a death world from a distance. We've got sunsets, beaches. It's easy to miss the part where everything is also trying to kill you all the time in 100 different ways at once. Deathworlders come in more than one shape, it turns out." He turned the scar on his forearm over once, thinking of the chamber, the hum, the moment she'd stood back up. "My people are hammers. Yours are something else. 100 small tools that never stop adjusting." "Spite helps too," she said. "Never underestimate human spite." When she was cleared for duty, her class stood at attention as Krevther pinned a junior instructor's badge to her collar, the first ever given to a cadet still short of graduation. "You'll help me teach the next intake," he said. "4 more humans arriving next term. Perhaps you can explain to me in advance why they will all, without fail, try to make friends with the security drones." She looked down at the badge, then back up at him, and there was nothing soft left in her expression at all, only the same steadiness he'd first heard in a Tuesday morning, "Yes, sir, 2 years and 1 crucible ago." "I'd be honored, sir," she said, and reached out to shake the hand still marked with the scar she'd never meant to leave.